You don't decide to become an AI engineer all at once. It starts smaller than that. A tutorial at 2 a.m., a dataset that almost works, a model that almost learns. You tell yourself it's just curiosity. It doesn't feel like a career yet. It feels like chasing something you can't quite see. And somehow, that's enough to begin. Level 1. The student. You open a notebook and type your first import statement. It feels like unlocking something. You follow tutorials line by line. You don't understand half of it, but it runs, and that feels like progress. You learn words like model, training, loss. They sound important. You repeat them until they feel familiar. You spend hours fixing errors that turn out to be one missing comma. You don't forget those mistakes. You watch videos at double speed. Pause. Rewind. Pause again. You build small projects, a classifier that guesses handwritten digits, a chatbot that doesn't quite chat. You show it to someone. They nod. You can't tell if they're impressed or just being polite. You start comparing yourself to people online. They seem faster, smarter, certain. You feel behind before you've even started, but something keeps pulling you back. The idea that the machine can learn, and maybe you can too. Level 2, the junior AI engineer. You get the job. You read the offer letter twice to make sure it's real. First day feels quiet, too quiet. You open the company codebase. It's bigger than anything you've seen. You don't know where to start. You spend an hour just reading file names. They assign you a small task. It doesn't feel small. You ask questions carefully, trying not to sound like you don't know anything. You write code slower than everyone else. You double-check everything. You run experiments overnight. Wake up to results that don't make sense. You learn that models fail more than they succeed. No one told you that part clearly. You fix bugs that weren't yours. You break things you didn't touch. Stand-ups feel like performances. You rehearse what you'll say. Keep it short. Keep it safe. You start to understand pieces of the system. Not the whole thing. Just enough to stay afloat. You realize the job isn't building AI from scratch. It's adjusting, tuning, debugging. Again and again. Still, when something finally works, it feels earned. Level 3. The AI engineer. You move faster now, not because things got easier, because you stopped hesitating. You take on larger features, model improvements, data pipelines. You write code that others actually use. That changes something. You begin to see patterns. Which ideas are worth trying? Which ones quietly fail? You spend more time with data than models, cleaning it, questioning it. You learn that bad data looks normal at first glance. You debug by instinct sometimes. And it works, which is unsettling. Meetings increase. So does your responsibility. You explain your work to people who don't write code. You simplify, you translate. You realize communication is part of the job. More than you expected. You still hit walls, long ones. Days where nothing improves. You thought confidence would arrive by now? It doesn't. Just familiarity with uncertainty. You're no longer new, but you're not quite comfortable either. Level 4. The senior AI engineer. People come to you with questions now. You don't always have answers, but you have direction. You design systems instead of just building pieces. You think about scale, latency, failure cases. You review code more than you write it. You notice patterns and mistakes. You mentor someone new. You hear your past self in their questions. You start projects with less excitement, more caution. You know how things can go wrong, and they usually do. You're responsible for outcomes now, not just effort. A model underperforms. It's on you. Deadlines feel closer, even when they're not. You balance trade-offs constantly. Accuracy versus speed. Innovation versus reliability. You think less about what's possible, more about what's practical. There's less surprise and success, more relief. You thought this level would feel like mastery. It feels like managing complexity. Level 5, the staff AI engineer. You zoom out, way out. You think in systems across teams, not just projects. You influence decisions before code is written. Architecture, strategy. People listen when you speak. That changes how you speak. You spend more time in discussions than in code editors. You guide multiple efforts at once. Some succeed, some stall quietly. You learn to let go of details, even when it's uncomfortable. You notice organizational patterns, where things slow down, where they break. You push for better approaches. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Pressure feels different now, less visible, more constant. You carry context others don't see. You thought influence would feel powerful. It feels heavy. Level 6, the principal AI engineer. You are called in for the hard problems, the vague ones, the ones without clear answers. You define direction more than you execute. You connect dots across the company. Data, models, people. You think years ahead, not weeks. You see trends before they become urgent. You write less code. But when you do, it matters. You mentor at scale. Not just individuals, teams. You shape standards, best practices that others follow. You notice how often the same problems repeat. Different names, same structure. You become calmer in chaos, or at least you look that way. There's a distance now. Between you and the day-to-day, you thought this level would feel like clarity. It feels like abstraction. Level 7, the AI engineering manager. You step away from building, not completely, but enough to feel it. Your job is people now. You hire, you mentor, you evaluate, you sit in meetings about meetings. You protect your team's time, or try to. You translate between leadership and engineers. Expectations move in both directions. You track progress without writing the code. That takes getting used to. You feel responsible for things you didn't directly touch. Success becomes collective. Failure does too. You miss the simplicity of solving a bug. You thought leading would feel like control. It feels like balancing forces. Level 8, the director of AI. You think in terms of impact now. Business outcomes, long-term bets. You oversee multiple teams, each with their own challenges. You set direction more than you refine it. Your calendar fills before your day begins. You make decisions with incomplete information, often. You rely on others' judgment more than your own code. You see how fast things change. New models, new tools, new expectations. You realize no one fully keeps up. You speak about vision, alignment, execution. The words repeat. The meaning shifts. You thought reaching this level would feel like arrival. It feels like maintenance. And somewhere else, a new student opens a notebook. A blank screen, a blinking cursor. They type their first import statement. It runs, they pause. Look at the output. It feels small. It isn't. They don't know where it leads yet, but they keep going.